everyone, welcome to my blog. This is the video in which I will be reviewing books that I read in the past 2 weeks. So I'm trying to get back to my reading progress videos, which are weekly wrap-ups for all the books that I read within 1 week, but since I'm going on vacation and I did not film last week, this is going to be the reviews for 2 weeks between August 1st and August 13th. And once I'm back from vacation in September, I'll do like a monthly wrap-up. I'm trying to get away from monthly wrap-ups, but unfortunately, yeah. Trying is the key word here. Anyway, unbeknownst to myself, I managed to read quite a few books in the past 2 weeks. I don't know how it happened, probably just because I was trying to finish the books that I've been reading for weeks, rather months. So without further ado, let's just get on with it. The first book that I read was actually an audiobook, and that was Cress, the book number 3 in the Luna Chronicle series by Marissa Meyer. I'm listening to all of those books in audio because I really enjoy Rebecca Solera's narration, but plus because I find them like pretty boring, to be honest. Cress is obviously the retelling of the Rapunzel, and it just takes off from wherever Scarlet left off, and I really enjoyed the beginning of Cress. I thought it was very well paced, it was very interesting, but once I hit the middle, this is when my kind of funk or slump started, and I found that it happened to me with Scarlet as well, and it's not because I hate those books, it's far from it. I do enjoy them, I just don't find them exceptional in any way, but I do enjoy them. But when I get to the middle of the book, I just feel as if the pace slows down so much that it's very hard for me to pick it up. Plus, audiobook is very different experience from just actually reading the book. When you read the book, you can skip a couple of pages, you can just, you know, kind of skim through them, you can increase the pace. With audiobook, you didn't have this opportunity. I mean, like, of course, you can skip the chapter, you can increase the speed of the audio, but it's not the same because I still prefer kind of like to skim through, but increasing the like speed of the audio itself is so weird, I cannot really handle it. So I was forcing myself to listen to it like right in the middle, especially when, and this is not exactly a spoiler because I'm not going to say what happened to whom, but there was like a kidnapping scene and I felt that it was so obvious and everything that was happening there was so predictable that I did not like it. It's not like I hated it, but it was just obviously it was not my favorite. However, once we got to roughly 2/3, maybe like 70-75% into the audiobook, the pace picked up again. And even though once again Marissa Meyer is kind of predictable in her way, she does introduce new characters, but you can probably see a mile ahead where this character is going to end in the story, like what kind of fate is going to befall this character. And I find, like, I like it, but at the same time, it's just nothing special for myself personally. I did enjoy this book, I liked the ending, so I gave the audiobook overall 3 stars. I think the plot itself was like around 3 stars as well, but narration was very good, so overall 3 stars. I do have a written review of this book on my blog. If you're interested in that, the link will be down below. Next, I picked up another book in the Luna Chronicle series, and that was that weird in-between book Fairest, which is supposed to be 3.5. This book takes place kind of all over the place, so it's more like a prequel because it tells us the story of Levana, the Queen of Luna. It starts when Levana is a kid and kind of progresses to the point where we are in the story right now, and I was bored out of my freaking wits. So, to be fair, I do understand that there must have been a lot of pressure on Marissa Meyer to produce a new book. I didn't even look at the publication dates, probably I should have, as a good blogger, but I did not. But my understanding is that it's whenever you start a series, right, as a writer, and the series take off and the books are getting more and more popular, you are under a lot of pressure to wrap up the series right. So I had a feeling that Winter, which I already started to listen to, and this is the final book in the series, and it's a behemoth. Honestly, when I looked at it in the physical form, I was like, what the heck? This is like enormous. That's why I kind of have a feeling as if there was a lot of pressure on Marissa and she wanted to sort of give the audience, the reader, some other book between books 3 and 4. And she wrote Fairest, and because of that, the quality of the work is not really high. The plot, there is no plot. Okay, no, I take that back. There is plot, but there is no reason for this book to exist. We all know that Levana is a horrible person. We don't really need to know in every excruciating detail why she became that kind of person. Firstly, because the story overall seemed very redundant and very reminiscent of Heartless. Considering the fact that Heartless was the first book by Marissa Meyer that I read personally, and I kind of started from the end, right? I felt that Levana was, the story of Levana the Fairest was kind of like Marissa's try to write about an evil character, about a villain. And she did not do a very good job. Levana goes through a horrible childhood, but she's also a horrible person. We cannot blame everything that she does later on in the story only on her childhood, because she's incredibly cruel herself. She does not really understand love or care. She does not really care about anyone. And she does horrible things to everyone, to her loved ones, to people she herself considers to be her family. And the things that she does, there is no excuse for that. I personally feel that there is no excuse for Levana to be the person that she is, and I did not want to read about her sad story, because that sad story did not make me sad. It did not make her look more tragic or misunderstood in my eyes. I felt that Levana is an evil character, and she should have been left like that without giving us any sort of, I wouldn't say like no, but like obviously any character, even a villain, deserves a backstory, and this gives depth and just makes the world more interesting. That's true. However, we had glimpses of Levana's past in other books. It was briefly mentioned that she was always wearing this veil, and there were rumors about her husband, about the death of her husband, about the what happened to Celine, what happened to everyone else, etc., etc. So we already had enough glimpses to kind of understand that there is more to her than just meets the eye. But what Marissa Meyer tried to show us, she tried to make her like so tragic, and so, you know, kind of make us sympathize with her, which completely failed for me. I don't think it should have been done at all. But Levana, the way that she was portrayed, it's just like she's not redeemable. There is nothing in her past that can redeem what she's doing right now. And because of that, I was bored out of my wits. Everything that happened in Fairest was extremely predictable. Everything. I did not like the voice of Levana at all. I did like 2 other protagonists that appear in the story just because they were new characters and they were never mentioned before. So I enjoyed that. I did not like them per se, but I enjoyed that. And I just, after that story, I just despise Levana even more. It does give us a bit more backstory to Winter, but I don't feel it's very necessary because she's not the main protagonist of Fairest. Levana is. And besides, we have the next novel, Winter, which is actually all about Winter. That's why I was really disappointed by this book. It was relatively short. The audiobook was only about 6.5 hours. So I kind of went through it, but I did not like it. So I gave it 2.5 stars, 1 star for the plot, 4 stars for the narration, as always, because Rebecca Soler is great. So overall rating of 2.5 stars. If you decide to skip it while reading the Luna Chronicle series, I promise you, you would not miss anything. And once again, I have a written review on my blog because I needed to rant a lot. Next, I have a graphic novel which is called The 100 Nights of Hero by Isabel Greenberg. And this is another graphic novel by Isabel Greenberg that was recommended both by Russell from Ink and Paper blog and Simon from Savage Reads. And both of them were recommending those graphic novels and saying how very engaging, like how beautiful they are, how whimsical the story is. I read the Encyclopedia of Early Earth in July, and to be completely honest, I was not very enamored with it. I liked the art, however, I felt that the story was very redundant in the sense that there was absolutely nothing new in the story. The author just took various myths and Bible stories and just whatever story of the creation of the earth there is and told it in her own way with cool art, and that was it. I was not very into it. However, I gave it 3 stars, but I still decided to pick up this one because I heard that it's better. So I did like it. I read it in, I think, 2 sittings because it's kind of thick one. It's pretty heavy too, so I have to keep it on my shoulder. So the art is pretty cool. It looks like this. And there is a lot of humor in the story as well. It is essentially the story of those 2 women. One is named Cherry, another's name is Hero, and Hero is telling stories for 100 nights to Sherry's husband's friend, who kind of came into the house to try and seduce Sherry and prove that all women are untrustworthy, etc., etc. So I really enjoyed the story. There is a lot of love between 2 characters, and some of these stories, they're all basically about women, about sisters, about families, about betrayal, love, sacrifice. Most of those stories are sad, even though they're told in a very funny way and the art is funny. Still, the stories are pretty sad. I gave this book 3.5 stars. I did like it way more than the first one, but still kind of, like, I liked it, but I was not head over heels in love with it, if you know what I mean. But still, it was a very nice experience, and if you're into graphic novels and you like this sort of art, yeah, check this one out. Next, I read volume number 6 of What Did You Eat Yesterday manga series, and as always, I give it 4 stars because it's just adorable. Cooking is adorable, those guys are adorable, and it's just slice in life, and yeah, I did enjoy it. I found a lot of jokes there, and even though some of them can be on the verge of something like internalized homophobia, but this is just, like I said, I mentioned it before, I don't want to analyze it too much just because it's part of the Japanese culture, and it's something that I myself as a Westerner cannot really comment on. I can see that it's very different, and I'm not very comfortable with some ways which things are named or described. However, I found some things are very stereotypical and very funny. For example, this one in which one of the characters, not the main protagonist, but one of their friends, says that gay bentos have to look good, and just, I'm sorry, but that was hilarious. So yeah, I gave it 4 stars. As always, cannot wait to finish the series. I think I have 6 more volumes left. Next, I finally finished the book, which I've been reading for quite a few months, but that's just because I owned the copy and I could not get through this book very quickly for the reasons that I'm going to discuss later on, and that is The Life-Changing Magic of Tidying Up by Marie Kondo. You have probably heard of KonMari method of tidying, and this is actually the book by the Japanese author and also the specialist of cleaning and tidying, Marie Kondo. So I did enjoy this book. I gave it 3.54 stars. I thought that it was hilarious in some places and very eye-opening in other places, but it's also one of those books that I cannot really read in one go. Even though it's super short, it's small and very short, but I could not finish it in one go. One of the reasons, because it's very inspiring to, you know, when you read it, you kind of want to put the book aside and just start tidying and organizing things. And while reading this book, I got so inspired that I did some cleaning in my apartment. I probably will never be able to reach the same level as KonMari method, you know, what you strive for, kind of like, I cannot really take out all of my books. Actually, when I got to the chapter about the books and discarding books, I actually had to put that book away because it was just distressing me. But I don't think I will be able, at least at this point in my life, to do what she advises you to do. That is, take out everything that you own, kind of put it all together on the floor, look at every single thing, and decide whether it sparks joy or not. I don't think I can do that at this point in my life, but I was inspired to do two very big things. One, organize my desk, and I discarded a lot of old papers and reorganized a lot of things, which helped me a lot because things were just overflowing. And another thing that I did was organize my dresser. I have 3 drawers in my dresser, and things were so squeezed into those 3 drawers that it was very difficult to actually open them. But once I got to the whole, you know, organization and folding method by KonMari method, I watched actually videos on YouTube how to do that, and I started to fold my clothes and my underwear in the way that she shows how to do that. And it's like, I couldn't believe my eyes. I'm not even joking, but I had 3 drawers packed with clothes. Once I folded them the way that she says you should be doing, and kind of like putting them like in the little, like vertically, not like in piles, it saved me. I actually have like half of the bottom drawer empty. I couldn't believe my eyes. I'm not even joking. I did not even throw away a single thing. I just folded it the way that she says you should. And oh my god, I sometimes just look at my closet and I think, oh my god, I want to do that to every single thing that I own. But I don't think I'll be doing that anytime soon. However, I found this book really inspiring. If you're the person who likes to organize things, and if you enjoy, or maybe if you don't enjoy to clean, but you like to keep things organized, definitely check this book out. It goes to certain extremes that I personally cannot really go to, like for example discarding books, right? When I got to the chapter about discarding books, I actually had to put this book aside because I couldn't read it, but I still found the book very entertaining, so I gave it 3.5 4 stars. So yes, definitely check this one out. Next, I have another self-development book, which is really surprising because I'm really not into them, honest to God, and that is Girl Code, Unlocking the Secrets to Success, Sanity, and Happiness for a Female Entrepreneur by Cara Alwell-Leyba. So I would not have picked up this book if it were not for Cara's podcast, which is called Style Your Mind, which I discovered thanks to another indie author, Kristen Martin, whom I really like, and I follow her on YouTube. She is a very prominent YouTuber. She talks about writing, about publishing process, and I also met her at BookCon. She's a lovely person overall, but she's also kind of like a female entrepreneur, and she started her own podcast as well. And while doing one of her vlogs, on her channel, she mentioned that she likes to listen to podcasts by Cara in the car while she's driving to work. So I was like, okay, maybe I should check out those podcasts, and I did check her out. I did not like every single podcast. I listened just maybe to half of them. Some of them I found relatable, others I found completely like over my head because I'm not an entrepreneur, but I do find that some of the things about how to run the blog or a successful YouTube channel, is in many ways the same as starting your own business. So I decided to pick this book from the library just because I wanted to see if there was more to what Kara was saying in her podcast. And the answer to that question would be yes and no. She does say, like, she does talk more about her own personal experience and kind of like gives more of that prep talk, you know. And she also has a lot of interviews with other successful women, female entrepreneurs. There are a lot of quotes from successful women as well. There are quotes from Hillary Clinton. There are a quote from Lady Gaga. There are quotes for Madeleine Albright. All sorts of, you know, like Nora Ephron. There are a lot of people. This is a very empowering book if you are that kind of person who likes those types of books. I do not. I honestly do not like this type of books because I just feel they're a bit artificial for me. I'm a fiction person. I'm not a non-fiction person. So for me, I prefer to kind of talk to a person and listen to their own experience, and in ways podcast is even more interesting and appealing to me than this book. But this is a very short book, and what I liked about this book, it's about 150 pages, is that it was initially self-published by Kara, and then it was picked up by Penguin, I believe, and republished recently, yes, by Portfolio Penguin. So I did like the way that Kara was talking about the publishing process on her podcast and how this book was picked up by the big publisher. So yeah, I give this book a go. Like I said, not my favorite, but I went into this book quite aware of this fact. Also, I found the language of the book itself very simplistic. That's why I gave this book about 3 stars. It's a good way to pick yourself up if you are in some sort of funk and you know that reading something about other people's experiences and about their own success can help you getting out of that funk. So definitely check this one out. Otherwise, I would say probably skip it, because if you need something, if you want to learn more about Kara herself, just check out her podcast, Style Your Mind. She also came up with this blog title and blog idea, which is called The Champagne Diet. So you have probably heard about that one, maybe somewhere on Pinterest or Twitter. So check her blog out. And I think that just a podcast and her blog are more than enough. Then, you know, you don't really need to read this book. But yeah, if you're into it, check this one out. Okay, and the last but definitely not least is the book that I was also reading for a couple of months, and thank goodness I'm finally done with it. And this is Dreadnought by April Daniels. This is a YA superhero story, very much like any other superhero origins story, but the main protagonist is transgender woman, and this is the best part about this book. So our main protagonist is Dani. She is transgender and she always knew that she wanted to be a girl, but she's unfortunately born in a boy's body. She's only 15, so she cannot really do anything about it, and her only outlet is just buying nail polish and painting her nails. So one day, this is exactly what she's doing. She has nail polish and she's painting her toes behind the mall when she is a witness to the death of Dreadnought. Dreadnought is one of the superheroes of the Legion that exist in this world, and Dreadnought is killed by someone called Utopia. When Dreadnought is dying, Dani wants to help, but she cannot really do anything. So the moment that Dreadnought is basically dying in her arms, he passes on his superpowers to Dani, and those superpowers change her physically into a girl. So now not only Dani has the body that she always wanted, but she also has superpowers. And this is where everything goes wrong. I had a lot of problems with this book, mainly because I felt that even though the part of the transgender story about Dani, about how she faces a lot of discrimination from her best friend, from her parents, especially her dad, who's very abusive, I found that that part was really very well developed. However, the part about the superheroes and the actual kind of like mystery and detective part about how Danny's trying to figure out who, and more importantly why, killed Dreadnought and what Utopia is trying to achieve, because there are a lot of robberies all over the place. So I felt that that part was not very well developed. This book is a debut novel, and it is heartbreaking in some parts, especially when you read about Danny and her relationship with her father. Her father is absolutely horrible person. It's horrible when you read about it. Like, I personally was getting really sick of her father, and I wanted something bad to happen to him, because he's just such a he's really he really treats both Danny and her mother really badly, and Danny's mother is also very, you know, not exactly white, or not exactly innocent, and also the best friend of Danny's, who kind of flips when he finds out that Danny's a girl now. I mean, like, physically. There are so many things in this. There is so many discrimination, so much transphobia in this book, which really made me cringe. I mean, I do understand that this is part of reality, but it just was very heartbreaking to read. So that part was done really well. However, the part about superheroes was very raw and undeveloped. There are some characters which are great. I liked Calamity, I liked Doc Invisible, I liked even Utopia, but there were other characters which just like completely undeveloped, very one-dimensional. There were also a lot of editorial mistakes in this book. This is a library copy, and I don't know who thought that it's okay to kind of like make marks on the margins of this book with a pen, no less, you know. At first I thought that whoever was doing that was just like, you know, defacing the book for no particular reason, and then I started to pay attention to those marks, which kind of made it more obvious that this book was not very well edited. There are some grammatical errors, so this book probably, well, it should have went through copy edits, but I just feel it was not done very well. It's a bit of a raw material, so because of that, and also because of the way the plot developed and the main revelation, I felt that the book, it's not a very big book, it's only about 280 pages, but the main revelations about Utopia and everything that was going to happen next were left for the last, like, I don't even know, maybe like 50 pages, which was not enough. And because of that, I gave this book 3 stars. So yeah, I liked Danny, but everything else was kind of a bit raw and undeveloped. Anyway, there is a sequel which is out already. It came out on the 25th of July, I believe, and it's called Sovereign. So hopefully a lot of things will be addressed in this book. What I like about Danny is that not only she's transgender, but she also identifies herself as a lesbian. So I'm guessing there might be some romance in the second book, but who knows? Anyway, I'm going to do a written review of this book on my blog as well, but so far my thoughts are just like this. Yeah, 3 stars. I expected a bit more. I found it a bit difficult to read just because sometimes it was just a bit boring. I hate saying this about books, but yeah, it was both entertaining and boring. Oh my god, I don't know how to explain it, but I know what I can compare this book to. One of my favorite books is Hero by Paramore, and that book had very similar feeling to this one, but Hero was very much better written. So yeah, if you read Hero by Paramore, definitely check this one out. Okay, this is it. This is all I read in 2 weeks, so I'm pretty proud of myself. I'm finally done with some of the books that have been on my currently reading shelf on Goodreads for months. So I'm getting rid of those books. Hooray! So yeah, thank you so much for watching. I'll see you very soon. Bye!